So here is what I've affectionately called Isla Rev, in a bit of a running gag, using the name Isla Rev as kind of a play on Jurassic Park from whatever the island name was, I forget off the top of my head, but that came from the first little island base I made that had a look that looked like it came out of Jurassic Park, and just kind of kept it around ever since. This one started off wanting to put together something to have my own little private retreat on this server. Nice little welcoming pole there, kind of gives you directions to other bases that are here. Did this with minimal terraforming. I only cut out a little bit of rock, a little bit of land. I tried to really build this one into the land. Nice little garden here just to kind of grow some of the essentials, I suppose. Planted some trees after I finished building here to try and mask it in some. Probably did a little bit too much. Kind of disappointed with how this tower turned out. It ended up looking more like a silo than a tower, but you know, it is what it is. Go through the front here real quick. This one was probably one of the ones I spent a little bit more time on, just to try and make it feel a little bit homey, I guess. The concept on this is that this is more of a like a mariner's lodge. It's out in the middle of the ocean. The big entryway with a bar and everything. Try to make it look a little bit lived in. Don't know how well that came across. I probably could put more decoration out. Nice little kitchen area. Ingredients and such, kind of keep everything stocked up. Fireplace, of course. As I've gone through this world, all of the resources that I've been working with specifically I've kind of piled up here. Like this should be completely full of barley. Yeah. Just kind of make this a base of operations that I'll warp in and out of whenever I need to do whatever I'm working on. We have other more communal areas, but this was just kind of a build project I wanted to work on. So, out over this way, ended up putting together a little ramp to get down to a windmill after we defeated Motor. So I wanted to have some way to process that barley on island, and during the storms this thing kicks up pretty nice. Just a way to kick out the wheat, the ground up barley. Just recently put together a second dock over here just for fishing, really. It's also more of a play on trying to get beams buried deep. So a lot of playing with trying to get things to line up correctly there. Go back in. This one I don't have a proper ramp for, but back inside. I'm proud of my Golem trophy and of the Fenrir trophy. That one was hard to find. And with the most recent update, I guess I need to fix the placement of bone mass there. But one of the things I gave myself a challenge on this one is this stupid staircase. And this took forever to build. It is walkable. I shouldn't have to run. Now it is disorienting when I go up it, I apologize. Yep, no running, just walking. And just walking. Almost, almost. There we go. Every single piece of that had to be manually oriented. That was a chore and a half. And the view from up here isn't the greatest. The trees kind of block things, but you can see a few key areas, I suppose. This again was just more of a challenge, and it's going to be disorienting going down because you have to spin to get through here. The game does not like spiral staircases, but hey, I built one. So back from here, again the concept on this was Mariner's Lodge, so of course with it being my retreat specifically, I have on one side my little area. All the items in here We'll pile up to give a pretty decent bonus. I think I get up to 17 on here. And then little private room. Nice little overlook over the dock. Also the easiest way to get up on the roof. From here, I go back down to the other side. There are a pair of rooms that can be used to, you know, anyone who needs to rent a room. There's a little room for rent. One thing that is really nice, of course, it's the wrong time of day, but during the morning, east is over this way. When the sun is right about there, this lights up super pretty. So coming out of the portal, you have this really nice view. I think it looks really great. Yeah, this one is my private island that I'm quite proud of. Another stop on the shared world that we have. We found 2 maypoles on this instance, in this seed. We built one giant encampment over one of them. I had very little to do with that base. However, this maypole I decided to build a grand dock for. And this one was a challenge for me to try and build a very open building, which turns out is actually terrible because it's very hard to get a rested bonus in here. But started off with a modest little dock. It's enough to get, I can actually get 2 longships and a carve in here. So you can get some boats in and out of here. The necks over there tend to be an issue. They like to come over and heckle you, so one day this may go further out, or I may build something to shore it up a little bit. I don't know, but no one's really shown an interest in building here, so I've kind of abandoned it for now. But anyways, continuing with my theme of trying to not modify the terrain, a lot of this is built at level. Very little ground leveling was done on this. I wanted to try and build something very, very open. There are doors where the carts come in and out because, well, you kind of need it. But other than that, it's just open. So, just a little area, you stand right in the middle, you can get your rested bonus. Did some work on how the smoke handles in the chimney. I found out that you can use these beams like this and it'll actually trap the smoke. It'll force it out the way you want it to go, and it doesn't look half bad either, so started doing that in a lot of places. But yeah, you've got a service entrance over there, and then go up this little staircase, which I kind of played with the angles on the beams to try and make it look a little bit more interesting. And I think from here, yeah, you can see the maypole just about dead center on the screen over there. Eventually that'll probably get turned into another settlement. But again, very big open building. I want to say there was a post on Reddit I had seen that I liked the look of it, so I kind of mimicked it in this, trying to create a very big and open feel. This is really just a dock house. That's all this is supposed to be. That's all this actually is. The whole idea is just a place to come in and, you know, drop off before you go into the base proper, which will one day get built. Oh, can't see it through there, but one day get built somewhere over there. So yeah, this is the docks at Honeywood. Just a little base to stop off in on your way further into the rest of the area. Look at the back of the chimney. I was kind of happy with how the chimney came out. Just made this little fixture right here. Lots of space for the smoke to come out. Ventilates perfectly fine. I could probably throw one more block on there, but I chose not to because nothing's getting in anyways. But yeah, thought that one came out pretty cool. I've become a fan of doing the edges of the roofs with this spacing in them, with this extra little gap like that. I think it adds a nice little touch to it. You can see that on a lot of the builds that I did. So back in Roebourne, however they say it, I don't know. Down that way a ways is the world spawn, and we came down and we said, okay, here's the first real nice clearing, we're going to build something here. When we got here, we built a a little shack, and it was okay. Let us get started. And I said, this needs to turn into something more. So I built what I call Fimm, which is actually, I think, Old Norse for 5. Now, Fimm was a creation saying I wanted to play, as is usually how I do things, with shapes. So if I run over here to the top of it, the original idea was to build a pentagon, which you can see loosely here, a 5-sided figure. So okay, I'm going to start with this, and then I'm going to build with the terrain. I'm going to make things that fit with what we have, and they're going to work here. So what I created, we had to reinforce it after we started moving through the bosses. I was afraid of fooling attacks, so I built these double gates and walls and everything. Good way to add, takes 800 hit points of damage to get through that gate, so it helps. But anyways, carts and such, when you come through here, wood and stone storage, because we were moving a lot of that in and out of here originally. And I had this. I said, okay, so this is my pentagon shape, and it's not perfect. If you trace it exactly, the hearth over here kind of hides that it's not a perfect pentagon. But what I created here was a little dorm area where we all had our original beds. We've all since moved on from this location. A little door that comes out to one of the gardens. I forget what the rested bonus here is. It's like 12 or 13. It's decent enough. I mean, we got a lot of the different elements in here, a couple different rugs and such, so it adds up pretty decently. The portal that takes us back to Palmyra, which is the main hub of this world, and the little workshop wing. Again, in the theme of trying to make everything fit with the terrain, I worked with terrain to go up and to build these guys in. This was actually a wonderful little starter base, right out from this dock where you can see the little gardens that we put together to have our vegetables to work with. For a while I've got the little smeltery outside. There's a door from the workshop to get to there. This is actually where I started this. This whole thing started with this shape here. I wanted to try and build something not a square. And at the time we still had the old building up top, so once I built the staircase up to here and started continuing in, had to level that and build in from there. But yeah, I have the nice little gardens that I tried to, again, keep in with the landscape. I think I leveled them a little bit. I didn't do too much to them. Playing with shapes, a spot to put the bees. The bees are happy up there. I think it works to have bees near the gardens to make it look like they're actually working. For the dock, one of the cool things that I discovered, if you build in a wall, or fences or whatever, and put a hook in them at the end in the water, the creatures that try to get through them will actually get stuck in that hook and just wait around and then get bored and leave. So it's actually very, very rare that anything comes in and starts to cause trouble up here. This base has had a number of events happen at it, and I think it's never actually taken damage. You can see the little hook over here. But yeah, this was also where I built my first ship bridge. See it over there in the distance. It was our path to get carts over to the Dark Forest, where we mined a metric shit ton of copper. Go ahead and go over there. Probably just fast forward through this part. Oh, well, I'll stop here real quick. I don't think they're here right now, but usually this little inlet right here fills up with fish. You can just catch them with your hands, which is kind of cool. Okay, anyways, this little creation here was fun, because this was early on. We had just gotten to the point of picking up core wood. And as the joke goes, we are posh Vikings. We do not like getting our feet wet. So I saw that big rock over there and said I can extend the terrain just a little bit and build a bridge big enough to get a carve under. I want to say you can get a longboat under here. I'm not positive, but I have taken a carve under here many times. I know that is very easy to do. But yeah, just a very basic little bridge that gets us over to the other side here. It's possible to drag a fully loaded cart up. Much easier when you have the reindeer power, whatever his name is, when you have that active. But yeah, we came up here and absolutely decimated this area. We found several copper deposits right next to each other on the other side of this little gorge, and we cleared them out. So built this little mining camp up here where we were actively smelting everything we were bringing in. And yeah, I mean, we cleared this place out. And there's probably 2 or 3 more holes in the ground just like this one right on the other side of the visible range here. We found several areas like this and probably pulled close to 600-700 copper combined out of all those areas. I like how this log fell on here. I've just left it there because it was just too perfect. But yeah, we built these little mining camps like this, whereas just we would have a forge in here at the same time to keep the pickaxes going. As soon as we were getting copper, we started making bronze pickaxes. But yeah, this was the start of Roebourne and the little village of Fimm, which isn't really used by anyone anymore. If we ever have new players join the server, that's the first encampment they can get to on their way towards Palmyra, the large island. Yeah, I was kind of proud of this bridge. That was a interesting build, especially early on. As far as my time spent in-game, this bridge would probably have been maybe 20 or 30 game hours in, so I was still learning a lot about how the structures would reinforce. The diagonal lines on this are purely decorative. They probably don't provide anything for support, but I think it gives it a nice appearance. And I do like the way Fimm just kind of nestles into the terrain. It kind of hides away a little bit, not too much. I mean, it does stick out, but it's something you can easily lose sight of if you're not actively looking for it from certain directions. Guys, really? I'm busy. No, sir. Okay. But yeah, this little area was home for a very long time in this world, and I think it turned out pretty nice. I debated talking about this one or not. To be entirely honest, it doesn't look like very much from out here. This was actually my first Farmville. We'll see the pop here in a second, I think. Oh no, the timing's just right. They're just starting to pop. This was my very first little farming island off the coast of the plains. You can grow everything here. This has been our source for, we had so much flax in the beginning. And now it's just all for barley to make bread and wraps and whatnot. I want to say, if you pack it in densely, you can get almost 1,200 barley out of this in a harvest. So even after replanting, you can still walk away. Like if you densely pack it and then loosely replant it, this easily turns out somewhere like 800-900 barley. Interesting little fact I learned. I put the fire in here to get rid of wet bonus or wet debuffs or what have you. The forge, when you activate the forge, it generates fire. It actually counts as a fire source. So if you have a forge inside of an enclosed place, you don't even need a fire. You can get all of your rested bonuses just by sitting here and apparently smacking the well, not the right part with with your hammer. I guess those bellows have earned it. So now we're looking at one of the first multiplayer worlds that I had joined. I wasn't going to talk about this little spawn tower that I had made because it's literally just a little stone circle. But a nifty little trick here, the accessories to the workbenches don't have to be on the same level. So you can have your workbenches down on one platform and then hide all of the upgrades somewhere else. They just have a distance requirement that can be met apparently in any direction. So this little departure to get back to where we had our trophy, the world spawn. This was just a little encampment so we could work back to it anytime we wanted to change our powers out or put trophies in or whatever. Nothing terribly special, just literally just a little defensive position, I suppose. Yeah, that came out alright. Now this world was fun, because we had built a couple of different things, and we'll come back and we'll look at this whole structure later. But the whole Isla Rev, this is the building that started all of that. I had looked at the seed, looked at the map, and found this area where I foolishly thought I had to go to build. So I came out here and built this encampment on this little Meadows island, just a little bitty island at the end of a chain. That island right there, which we built a silly long bridge because, again, posh Vikings don't want our feet wet. That island is a combination of meadows and plains, and we wanted to make our entrance into the plains. You can see the dock over there just kind of barely in range. That's the dock that leads back to the building we call Wakanda. Yeah, we thought we had to have different soil types to grow everything, not just simply plain soil, so we wanted to build one giant combined farm. But this building was what started the whole Isla Rev, and the fact that it kind of looks like it came out of Jurassic Park, just low to the ground with the hut on the top. This was something I built just to have a quick, defensible structure. This maybe took an hour and a half in total to level and build. And it was just a camp to get us out here and have a portal to get us to Wakanda. It was our first experience with the Fullings and dealing with all of the Deskitos and things like that, so as the phrase goes, you learn by dying in Valheim, and we learned a lot. So yeah, this little encampment like this, I built a number of little shacks like this anytime we go to a new area and just need a quick base of operations. I just can't bring myself to build a little rectangle and leave it at that. I just can't do it. So there are a number of silly things you can do in this game, one of which is trying to build a bonfire out in the middle of an ocean, which we did. Another one is building a very long dock because, well, as I was joking earlier about the bridge over there at Isla Rev, well, we are posh Vikings and don't like our feet wet. So, built this ridiculously long dock. This is actually the very last thing I built when we built Wakanda. This was my biggest build, and probably still is my biggest build, just in the sheer scope of it. Cutting out the moat that goes all the way around this thing. Because even though right now we're looking at meadows, on the other side of this is plains. It gets very dangerous over there. In fact, I'm going to just real quick make sure that I need to eat. Because I need that health when I go outside, just in case something decides to swoop down and try to kill me. So coming in from the dock, you have a nice big open entrance to a balcony and our portal room. This was a bigger version of what I had done on the keep back in my homeworld. In fact, the keep is one half of this room, so this is just finishing out that half circle. The amount of stone and wood that went into building this place is absolutely ridiculous. Of course, this being multiplayer and survival, every single piece mined by hand. If we had more time, if we had more material, I would have liked to have done this with stacked individual stones, but it was just so much easier to do with the 4x2s. This was going to be our Great Hall. We were going to decorate this with tables and chairs and everything. However, we decided to move on to a different world before we ever finished that off. In this structure, on each side you have a mirror image. This one is storage room for materials that you may find in the world or that you may harvest or collect. All the different natural materials and animal materials. Then a smaller armory where we started sorting out all of our extra weapons and such, and then having all of our valuables. This side, we never got to defeating Motor, so we never put in the artisan workbench, but there was room inside of here to put all of the smelting equipment, the blast furnaces, the artisan table, the works. It was all going to go in here. Just never made it that far before we started the new seed. Each one of these two sides has a tower in it. This was a fun construction to get it all spaced out properly and then build the staircase. Did all of this with no iron beams. If I'd had iron beams, it would have been a little bit easier to build this to support the fire. But coming up here, see where it becomes dangerous, because there's the plains. There's actually a very clear divide. You can see where the meadows and plains, that used to be a fulling camp, but see where the meadows and plains evenly cut right down the middle of this garden. And this was the whole concept of this base. I wanted to have the one side for the plains and one side for the meadow, so I could grow all four of the things that you can actively grow in the game. Did not realize at the time that that was completely unnecessary and a waste of effort, but did it anyways. I do leave one of my original sigils right there in the middle just to remind you of the dangers, because even though there's none on the screen right now, this place is usually littered with mosquitoes. And for one reason or another, fullings do have a tendency to actually spawn inside of this area despite being covered with workbenches. I don't know how, but they do. Maybe that's been patched out. Either way, this gave us access to black metal, it gave us access to cloudberries. There's a ton of them over in those trees over there. That little encampment on top of the rock was where I originally started the base of operations for this, while I dug this out, flattened it, and all of the work that went into building this, because this took a long time. But just like you have on this side the workshops with the tower, there's a tower over there, and that's the kitchen, so we'll head over that way. Maybe disorienting, but I'm going to run down these stairs. I have shot many an arrow off of those towers, shooting mosquitoes, fullings. I can't tell you how many putrid smells from the swamp events have happened here, which have handy delivery of entrails, I suppose. But we ended up putting a lot of the... That's extra, I don't remember that being there. And we put the smelters and such out here, just to have access to those things. Again, the building was designed to be tall enough to put those inside, we just never did. Wanted to put a nice courtyard in here. Originally this was all grass, and I would probably switch it back to grass. We thought that having grass was causing the fullings to spawn, so we turned it all into cobblestone. But yeah, the kitchen area, same kind of thing. We had cooking areas, and there used to be a lot more storage in here until we actually built out the storage areas themselves. This was our seed storage, which we had a couple of nasty events that wiped out a lot of our crops, so we put up a disclaimer to only use parts of it at a time. Then the kitchen storage, where we had all of the raw foods and cooked foods, and then a mead storage area where we started filling that in with the different types there. We had started collecting iron, didn't have enough to justify putting in the big storage cans here. Again, back in that main hall right here, if I go up this way, these were our dormitories, which this one we never built out. I couldn't really come up with a design I liked to create rooms that were decently sized for each player, and, well, you'll see on the other side, it didn't work out very well. But nice, big, open, great hall. We really wanted to do more in here, and, well, just didn't. The little overlook in the portal room, I think, had a nice appearance to it. But come over to where we actually built our dorms, and yeah, it's not good. I mean, it gets cramped, and you had everybody's individual rooms over here that were not great. And I took a big one because I built everything. And our benevolent host of this server fleshed his out with all sorts of design stuff. But then you look at, the rest of the rooms were quite small, not really very awesome. And open roof, you know, I couldn't figure out how to line these up properly because the way I did the walls off the stone, it just didn't line up right. So there were a lot of lessons learned here. But either way, this was a massive construction effort, and I'll be honest, I don't even remember how to get on the roof. It's been so long since I've been here. I think if I go up the tower, that's the easiest way. The other tower. Part of what was really nice about this base, especially at night, is you have all the meadow creatures that would spawn over here, like the deer and the necks and everything, the pigs, they're all out there. Well, nighttime rolls around, and the little fulling hunting parties will come out, and they'll start chasing into the meadows and kill everything for you. So, save you the effort of having to go harvest your own meat, I suppose. But yeah, I can jump down off of here onto the roof. This was an effort, and if I start looking at it, this is all going to get pretty red up here. And no iron in this, of course, just wood and core wood, but you start getting out to these areas and it's very red, it's ready to collapse. It took a lot of additional supports to try and make sure that everything would stay up properly. And like over here, these things are barely holding on. I'm pretty sure a strong wind should blow them over. But yeah, either way, it definitely did work for a long time. One of the problems we did discover because of the sheer amount of terrain modification I did, which, I mean, if I get up here a little bit higher, maybe show that off. I had to cut deep into that hill. I didn't realize how far this was going to go out. I'd plotted this all out on paper, and it went on for a ways. Couldn't go all the way down on that side. I dug and flattened, if I did the math right, 1.6 square kilometers worth of land. So in multiplayer, believe you me, this turned into a lag fest. Right now, locally hosted, because I got a copy of the seed when we retired it, I'm getting about 30 FPS. Granted, that's running at 2K resolution, max everything. But yeah, when it was a hosted world, when it was multiplayer, this was just an impossible thing to try and play, and I would get very low frame rate by the time we had actually finished furnishing and building things out. So yeah, lesson learned there. Trying to flatten huge amounts of terrain, while enjoyable, is bad for the frame rate, especially on a hosted system, or on a hosted server. But it does lead to some pretty cool looking bases. Yep, there's a Desquito. Knew they'd be out here. See him out there in the distance. Way over. I need my crosshair. Yeah, I'm not gonna hit him. But yeah, this little base turned out to be pretty cool, and definitely had a lot of terrible and a lot of good memories out here for sure. But had we continued in on this seed, we would have had all the flax we needed, we would have had all of the barley we needed. I mean, everything would have been here. It was just unmanageable, unfortunately, with the lag spikes that we would see in multiplayer. But yeah, this is Wakanda. No, real quick, since I'm here and it's nighttime, let's go ahead and do that Surtling core. Ooh. Ah. Much cooler at night.